We all know instinctively that holding a grudge is not a good thing, but forgiving others can be difficult. But did you know that by not forgiving others, you're actually chipping away at your personal power? We'll talk about that concept with Chris Lipp when we come back. Hi, I'm Karin Reed. I'm a four-time author, Emmy Award-winning broadcast journalist, and communication expert on helping people to own the room, whether it be a physical one or a virtual one. Welcome to Speaker Dynamics. Hey, Chris, thank you so much for spending some additional time with me and talking a bit more about some of the topics that we weren't able to get to in the 30-minute segment. And one of them that I wanted to discuss was the idea of forgiveness and personal power. What do those two have in common? What's their correlation?
Personal power certainly relates to our boundaries and our self-respect. What was fascinating is we're humans. And so there are people who have perhaps disrespected us in the past. And in those moments, maybe we didn't have our personal power, but it's still with us, right? They're like hooks that are stealing a little bit of our power away, particularly if that person is still in our life. And we know that we showed up small in some instance, right? Or we got anger towards them. And the research is very clear that people who are extend their personal power, they're much quicker to forgive because they just move forward. They're focused on their goals. They're not being held up by the past. And so science has really given us two ways to overcome these past instances where we've been wronged and to really step back into our power. One of the ways, this is maybe the most common way, is just the act of forgiveness. Scientifically, why does the act of forgiveness work? When we forgive somebody, implicitly, we are conveying that the value which was broken, or the value which was is hacked, is important. And so by forgiving, we're reaffirming that value within ourselves. And so you do that, it re-anchors you back into your own values, which is one of the sources of personal power. And you might do that. You might go up to the person and say, hey, look, you did this to me and I forgive you. And just in that act, it's irrelevant how they respond. If you're waiting for some sort of response from them, or, if you want them to be contrite or something, that's actually low power because you're still waiting for something from somebody else. But if you're just like, hey, I forgive you, you're basically saying this value was important, this person broke it, and I'm forgiving it, which means I reaffirm that this value is important. That's the scientific explanation. It just says forgive. Forgive reaffirms that you yourself are important. And then number two is, and this is something you might see in personal growth workshops and these things, but it has a very good core, which is to take responsibility for what happened. So if you can sometimes see when somebody wrongs us and we are waiting for that person to make up for it or something, we're giving all our power away to the external. And we need to take it back inside ourselves. We need to control the situation. And we can't control the past. It's done. The only thing we can control is our relationship with the past. And one of the ways that we can control that is to assert with ourselves our control within a situation. So if we are blaming, like it's all that person's fault, what we keep communicating to ourselves is, I didn't have any power in that situation. I still don't have power. I don't have power in that situation is what I'm communicating. But if I say, hey, this person did this, I could have upheld my boundaries better. Or I could have said something. This was in my power, And then you could actually go to the person who wronged you and you could apologize, because you could apologize and say, hey, look, last week in that meeting, you spoke up to me really sharply. And that made me feel pretty, that didn't feel good. And because of that, I have been treating you with distance. So you're taking full on responsibility for your behavior. And you're saying, so you go and you're like, I want to apologize because of the way that I'm holding this. And it's, I could have said something to you in that moment. And had I done that, things would have been smoother between us and I wouldn't be treating you the way I am now.
So interesting. So forgiveness, you might think it's an act of weakness. It's an act of strength. And it's, retrieving that power back from, the external and being able to move on. I was wondering though, is it easier to do that in your professional life versus your personal life? And, I'm just thinking about my son when he played soccer as a tiny person. He had one kid who he had a bad attitude as a child, I will say. And he kicked the soccer ball from maybe 5 feet away directly into my son's face and hurt him.
Yeah.
And I was very much mama bear, and I was not happy about it. And I knew this kid's name from that point on. Well, like, gosh, I guess it was a decade later. I was talking to my son, and he's like, yeah, blah, blah, blah is going to come over after school today. I'm like, say that name again.
You remember.
And it was the kid who kicked the soccer ball a decade ago that I still held a grudge against for doing that. And it turns out they were really good friends, and neither one of them remembered the incident like I did. But we got past it. We actually made a joke of it, and they're still really good friends to this day. But I'm wondering, like, is it more difficult in your personal life to allow yourself to take back your personal power and forgive than in your professional life?
Oof, that's a big question.
May not have time for it here, but I'm just you've thoughts on that.
It's just, I mean, in a personal life, obviously, we're trying to build relationships on something deeper than, for example, shared goals, like vulnerability and these things.
Right.
If you show up in either case by taking responsibility for the situation, the other person will respect you more. Like if they yelled at you because they didn't respect, maybe in a real, in an intimate relationship, they might have just been going through something difficult. But in a professional situation, they might have also been going through something difficult. They might just dislike you. But if you come and you say, hey, look, you said this to me last week. And and just blow their mind and say, I want to apologize to you because I took that personally. And as a result of that, I've been treating you differently. They will see you as super powerful when you come in with that. And they'll be like, whoa, I've been treating this person as if they're not strong, but they are, like what they just said to me. And they're going to respect you suddenly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or you forgive, which is just tying into your own values. And I forgive you. And they'll be like, oh, who knows how they'll react, right? But again, it's another act of personal power.
And as long as you sit in that ickiness and don't forgive, then you're holding yourself back and not allowing yourself to move forward and achieve your goals, I guess professional or personal. So Chris, thank you. This is a really interesting conversation, and I feel like I've exercised some of my demons from the soccer incident from early in my son's life. So thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for the question.